Hey, everybody. Welcome to a very hot Monday, the 24th of January, 2022. It's the Blue Abroad Show. I'm your host, Terry. I'm joined by the Pommy, how you doing, mate?
Always good. Always good when it's Monday and we're doing this. If you're hot, just imagine what a pasty white northerner feels like. I'm borderline melting in this.
It's crazy. It's been a crazy weekend on all fronts. What did you get up to? What happened over the course of the weekend for you? Because it was all of a sudden no footy. We'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah.
I kidnapped someone else's wife on Sunday. I was parked up in Cox and some woman got in the car while I was waiting for my wife and told me, she looked at me and literally said, "Well, go then." And then she realised I wasn't her husband. So that was entertaining that I nearly kidnapped her. She kidnapped me. Apart from that, I just spent time with kids. We went to the park and we complained it was hot, and then watched a lot of tennis. That is my weekends, tennis.
Love it, mate. Love it. Love it. Well, I want to start the show just to give my sister Degani, Steffi Degani, a shout out. It was her wedding on Saturday and we had that. And I was a emotional, bumbling mess for the entirety of the day. So I definitely was feeling all the love and all the emotions. And I think we were talking off camera. It's just those little things that bring you back to center as to what's important. So, yeah.
How good is getting married? What a day. I miss my wedding. I want to do it again.
I mean, yeah, it's great getting married when you're not getting married. It's great to be a part of it when there's no responsibilities.
Mate, it is. Yeah, big for all, but many happy returns to both wife and groom. I hope they enjoy themselves and hopefully we can win them a flag as a wedding present.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We've got a bit to get through tonight. We've got AFLW news very briefly. We're going to touch on a few things. And then we're going to talk about the men and open training. And then we're going to ask the audience a few questions as well. It's going to be a bit more interactive than what it was last week. So let's run the intro and get cracking.
What's going on? Incident!
Martin's been very impressive every single time.
I told the Carlton supporters, thank you for all the love.
They've seen some playing Glasgow. And there's a Vaccination moment. Ball inside 50. Control! He strikes it beautifully. He's got it.
Mate, the people spoke and they wanted the old intro back. So sometimes you just got to listen.
Well, I mean, yeah, it brings back memories. I love Mark in that every fucking time. Like, that is literally the screensaver of my mind, Mark screaming that. So it's good to see.
Yeah, it's important to have a positive memory in the intro and a not so positive memory just to remind us of who we are and where we've come from. I think it's great.
No, it's good. I like the new intro, but as an older man, I do like the retro effect of that.
No, sometimes you got to listen to the people. And so that's what I've done. So we're going to go back to the old intro. Might see if we can make another one. To our members of the channel, thank you very much. I actually met a couple of you on Friday, which we'll touch on open training shortly. It was crazy because, you know, in this whole experience, there's so many people and so many names that I'm familiar with, but I haven't met everyone and we haven't met each other face to face. So you have conversations with people and they'll be like, "Oh, by the way, I'm a member." And it's like, oh my God, amazing. So yeah, thank you very much for your continued support. And looking forward to really cracking in. I felt like after going to training on Friday, it was really the beginning of the normality. And, you know, obviously we've got the AFLW started and it's a bit of a taste tester of what the year is going to bring us in terms of Carlton being on a football field. But there was something else about Friday. So it was great to meet some of you and I look forward to meeting some more of you. Pom, let's quickly touch on the AFLW because there was a game, then there wasn't a game. We're moving into this realm of last-minute withdrawals. And the reason why I want to bring it up is because I feel like we're going to need to be ready for it because I feel like it's not going to end with the AFLW season. It's going to continue in. I'm fearful of it a little bit, to be honest with you. But do you picture this happening with the men's season? Like on a Friday when we're gearing up for a Saturday afternoon game, all of a sudden it being moved?
Oh, 2000%. I couldn't guarantee any more. It'll be interesting because we know the Poms, they've scrapped mandates, scrapped restrictions, and they're now in they're calling it Plan A, which even though they've had Plan B, but they're calling it Plan A, which is actually living with COVID. And they've just said, look, this ain't going anywhere. We're going to have to do it. We know America, that they've got a big vote in Senate this week about just totally doing the same. A lot of Europe's following. So if that happens, maybe we will live in a world where it's obsolete. Do you know what I mean? And we just play. But I think the way Australia is going, I would imagine, these games, there's going to be like Mark McGowan loves locking down his state. So that'll happen. You'd imagine that Perth are going to have like micro hubs. Yeah, it's going to be a mess. And I am looking forward to Gil coming back to give me a press conference on Monday to tell me he's going to have a press conference on Friday. I am excited about that returning because that was my favourite during COVID.
Very true. It's very true. I mean, look, it's a good question. It's a good thing you raised because we also have this next realm of more AFL players, and I think AFLW players as well, who are now all of a sudden being put on this inactive list who essentially they're not taking the vaccine for whatever reason. They're not getting vaccinated. And I had a moment where I felt for Liam Jones because he, in essence, became the first person to be announced as a player or one of the players in the league that would not be getting the vaccine and therefore would be foregoing his right to play. But I didn't quite see the same backlash on his character as what these other guys got through. So I guess it is what it is. That's what happens when you're the first of anything in this country.
Mate, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because I mean, but the Jack Darling one's confusing. Is he injured? Is he not taking the vaccine? No one quite knows. Jack Darling claims it was a long-standing injury. I think, like, without getting political here, and I'd never defend Boris Johnson because I think the guy he's Audi Donald Trump. So, like, we haven't even got the real McCoy. We've got the knockoff. But one thing I will praise Boris for was our mandates in the UK were a double vaccine passport, or you submit yourself to weekly testing and you have to have a negative reading because our vaccines and everything are free because we've got the NHS and so are the testing before you enter any event that has more than 50 people. So we didn't really have a mandate like Australia do. It's like you do have the option. If you choose not to be vaccinated, you can still work. If you submit to testing, you can still play sport. Hence, the Football League didn't mandate it. That is where I think we went wrong and we could have avoided it, because I do think when you mandate something and you say it's a choice, you take away the choice, don't you really? The way Australia's law is, you're basically a hero if you take the vaccine, or you're an idiot if you don't. Where if there was a secret option number 3 of I just submit to being testing, then it is a fair choice. So I think, without getting political, I think the politicians have fucked this one up personally. I think that's the right way to go. And I do feel sorry for Liam Jones. Where is the Indigenous community is my question. He's a big part of it. And I haven't seen them rally round with him. And I thought they would do. So it's sad. It's a sad state of affairs because this is people's lives. Yeah. You've got to remember, Liam Jones has retired 2 years earlier from a choice, really, whether we think it's right or not.
I mean, I don't want to bring it back up. I obviously want to focus on what's ahead of us, and I don't want to look too far behind in the past and get caught up in that. But it was just because of the Darling announcement, and then there's the Cam Ellis-Yeoman announcement from Brisbane. It just sparked that thought again, because they didn't really get anywhere near as much backlash and assassination of character, so to speak. But I guess there are more twists and turns to come to this. It's hard to be a content creator because I like to get a match preview out on a Monday or maybe Tuesday at the latest. So might be having to put a couple together every week. But it's going to be interesting. And I think at the end of the day, can we be confident that we'll be going to games this year? I don't know.
I mean, don't quote me on this, but there's no way we can go back into a lockdown. Like, there's no way. Like, when the world is opening up,
yeah,
we would be stupid as a country to close down.
Well,
I think there's enough evidence there, whether you think COVID is pretend or you think it's real. I think there's enough evidence there to say this ain't going anywhere. We're going to have to learn to live with it. And how we do it is up to everyone else. But for me, I'm ready now to live with it. I'm ready now to take it on the chin.
Of course. Well, I've got another update on Charlotte Wilson. Finally, we had a lot of people ask about it. I mean, we were all asking about her, and it raises a good point. But the club finally came out with a statement today. They announced the changes for the game tomorrow, and they say the following: that key defender Charlotte Wilson entered AFL health and safety protocols prior to round 1 and subsequently suffered a setback with a back injury, which has made her unavailable for selection so far this season. She will, however, be assessed in the lead up to Sunday's game against North Melbourne. Now, great. Where was that? Why? I don't want to get too caught up in getting angry, but I don't want this to be a precursor to what the year is going to be. Why couldn't they have just said that from the outset? I do not understand.
You know what I don't understand? And this is, we're turning into the Blue Abroad COVID show.
No, fuck it.
Why is now COVID like such a closely guarded secret when everyone is getting COVID? Like, it's now worse than it was 2 years ago when it was this new thing and it was this dangerous lurgy. Now everyone's getting it. So I don't understand that. And secondly, the back injury is kind of a new thing, is it not? Like, she shouldn't have been able to train for 2 weeks, which is the official ruling. They've got to totally separate. And so I don't like it. I really don't like it. I just think if you've broken protocols, look at the NBA. The NBA is straight away, he's broken protocols. He's part of that protocol now.
Yeah. Well, look, I can kind of understand the privacy element. If a player were to test positive, and we don't know if Charlotte did, but she's entered the health and safety protocol. So it could mean a couple of things. She's either a close contact, has symptoms, or tested positive, whatever the case may be. So I'm fine with the privacy. I'm not fine with not telling the members. I mean, on a selfish level, you sponsor the player. You want to know what's going on when they're not playing. You want to know you're invested in the player. I'm not just forking out this money just because it's a nice thing to do. I want to have an investment in the player and understand their journey and what's going on. And it was left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and it reminded me of the things that we've been complaining about for the last decade, to be honest. And I hope that they've just had a bit of a mishap and it's not a sign of things to come for the year. Just let us know.
It was classic Carlton banter, though. She's entered the protocol for COVID. Oh, by the way, she's got a back injury. you know, just throw the next bit in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Weird, because everyone's been talking for it about 3 weeks, which that is the thing. Like I don't understand why they can't just call it what the NBA do. The NBA call it COVID protocol. So that might mean you've been a positive test, might mean you've been a close contact, might mean that you ate a kebab that was made by someone with COVID. We just don't know. It's such a grey area. Why can't we say that? Like, I understand the COVID thing, but just say that's it.
Yeah. I think the protocol party's fine. The privacy of whether someone has COVID or not, I get it. People want to have their privacy and they're entitled to that. And I'm totally on board with that. But you have, tens of thousands of stakeholders in this club who want to know what's going on. So I just thought I'd bring it up and answer the questions that we've been getting about Charlotte Wilson. And now we can move on and be happy and wait for the next thing to happen that we're not happy about so we can complain about it here.
Well, that's what we're here for.
That is what we're here for. Listen, let's move on. Open training. Got to talk about it. I know that you weren't there, Pom. There were quite a few of us that did go on Friday. It was very well done by the club. Very much well done. The way they set it up, the way they placed everybody, The way they had Voss addressing the group, the fans, I should say, before training, Crips after training, they came, they thanked the fans. It was just a good day, and it really was a sigh of relief. And I'm very big on having more sessions like that where we can actually get there and meet each other and mingle and network and build relationships and hang out and build community. I was, and yes, the boys trained and we did a training report, but it was more about the community for me on Friday.
I think one thing COVID's taught us, hasn't it, that how important human interaction is and how important that C word is, community. We love C words here at Blue Abroad, but community is the one that we're going with this week. And I was gutted I wasn't there. I had work. Someone has to work, I suppose, while we all drink beers in the sunshine. But it's good because I think hearing the feedback from people, that's the main thing. It wasn't seeing the players. It was seeing each other. And I think that's something that we've got to really focus on. If we take one thing out of these last 3 years, it's we do actually fucking need each other. And things like your football club are the biggest community. And long may it continue.
Yeah. Want to give a quick shout out to Kano in the audience. It's his 21st birthday. So happy birthday to you, mate.
Jesus, he's catching up.
He's growing up. He's growing up before our eyes.
Catching me. You're catching me, Kano. You're nearly there. Yeah,
it's true. Now, on to training, it prompted me to ask a question, which is the first of a few for tonight. For you guys in the audience, I spoke a bit about Charlie Curnow in the report. He looked athletic and he looked like he had the spring back, and Mitch McGovern was behind the ball. There's a gentleman by the name of Chris Soras who comments regularly on YouTube on the videos, and he messages me from time to time, and he has this great question for me to raise, and I thought tonight was the way to do it. And the notion is that we generally know who our tier 1 players are, or our version of A graders. We generally know who tier 2 are, and we generally have a good idea of who they are. And his thing was, and I want to bring it up tonight, who are the guys in that 3rd tier and that 4th tier that ultimately will decide whether we're, going to rise or not? Because we know what we're going to get from our decent players, more or less, but we're not sure what we're going to get from these tier 3 or C graders, if you call them. And so I want to ask the question to you, Pom, and to you guys in the audience: who are some of the players that are not on those top 2 tiers of our list, who potentially aren't initially in our best 22 to start the season, that you've got your eye firmly on? Who are those players?
Well, I think the first guy is Jack Carroll. I think he's number 1 in my book of a guy that I think we look at him as a top 5 pick this year, really. When we drafted him, he was an early player. I think he would have gone in the top 5, top 10, most certainly, if he'd gone drafted this year. I think he's a guy there that I'm really, really looking at this year to step up, because I think there's an opportunity. I think there's about 3 or 4 players that are probably in that tier 2 category, if we call it that I don't think there's a lot of upside of. I personally think they've plateaued. I think this is their level.
You think they've reached their ceiling?
Yeah, I think that is the best output. So he's definitely someone I'm looking at. As for the older players, I think Bateson's knocked it on the head. I think Lockie O'Brien picked 10. We don't have any wingers on the list apart from Cottrell. For me, I think he's got the greatest opportunity in the world. He's got no one ahead of him. He's basically fighting for 2 spots with Cottrell, and the rest are converted players. So for me, I think he's a guy that I do genuinely think it's make or break. If he can't break into a 22 with one guy who's lucky to be on a list in Matt Cottrell, if he can't break into a 22 there, sayonara.
I think those are the players those are the exact type of players that we're talking about. The ones where they've had enough time to show something, to crack in and to show that they can play regular footy and impact consistently, and for whatever reason haven't been able to do it, and seemingly are on their, I don't know if you call it their last chance, but they're coming towards a year where the faith in them just diminishes if it's not going to happen this year. I think potentially O'Brien's one of them. I was looking at, someone mentioned before, Murkov and Parks. I think they're still quite young, but I don't know if they've been afforded the same amount of time as what the other guys that we've mentioned have in terms of keeping the faith. I think we'll keep some more faith with them. I think Willow was one that I was looking at going into training on Friday. He's definitely one that stood out, and I think he needs to really get going this year as well. I think he's had a real, it's been an up and down journey for him. Started as a first year player, showed a lot, got injured, terribly injured, finally got over that, came back, showed some promise, and then for whatever reason last year just wasn't his best year. He's one, I think, if he can push himself back into that tier 3 or tier 2 category that we probably had him in last year or the year before, as a rising star and as an up and coming player, I think it's going to make the world of difference. I think there's 3 of them. I think it's him. I think Setterfield is definitely one of them, and you've touched on O'Brien as well. If those 3, and I might even throw in, I don't think he has fallen as far as the other 3, but I think Zach Fisher as well. Zach Fisher could be a really good player for us this year, or he could be a so-so player for us this year, and I'm hoping it's the former.
Well, I mean, he reminds me a little bit like Bob Geldof. Bob Geldof is still famous because he had that one good song in the 80s.
Okay.
Which is why he's an expert on famine, because he's still making money from that. Fisher had that one good game against the Eagles, didn't he? And he's still, for some reason, in some people's tier 1. Where, for me, if you look at his whole career as a whole, he's tier 3. He's O'Brien with cool hair. So I'm with you there. He needs to show something. I love this call, though, here by... I've just highlighted your comment. It's got Michael Sankey. What about Williamson on the wing? This is, for me, when you watch Williamson play at half forward, right? I mean, at half back, he has got the defence combined of the French during both World Wars. It's non-existent, right? But he is really offensive. He really takes the game on. He really, really does. And he looks like he wants to. So I think he's got the engine. He runs all day at half-back flank. The problem is he always overlaps his winger. So there is no one in that hole. I think maybe it's time that we do throw him out there, because I think he's got the natural width. He wants to take the game on. And in the wing, if he turns the ball over like he does, you've still got a layer of defence. When he turns it over off the half-back on the 50, game over. So I think that's a great shout by Michael. It's something that I really do think he's destined to do, because he also has that ability to hit a 50, 60 metre long bomb, which Carlton will want to get the ball inside 50 very early.
Yeah. The thing about Willow, and he played a lot of that match simulation on the wing on Friday. The thing about him is that I find that his first reaction most of the time when he gets the ball is he wants to take off. And so I can understand why they've played him at the halfback position. I get it, because you want to generate run and carry from there. But we've got so many of them. Saad has the same attribute. I think Newman has the same attribute. Zach Williams definitely has the same attribute. And we've been crying out for this wing spot for years now. Willow is definitely one that's been spoken about as a potential player that can go up on the wing. The reality was that his body just had let him down. And that's probably why 2021 was a bit disappointing, because it was the year after a year of continuity. So we were hoping that after that year back from injury, he was ready to play a full season or play 15, 16 games and take his game to another level. I just saw a different focus in him. I know it's training. I don't want to take too much out of it, but I will take too much out of it. He's ready. I'd be looking at him, and those are the 4 or 5 names for me. Maybe even a Setterfield as well. There's just we all want to get excited about what could be, and this is the time of year where our imagination really runs wild, especially when you see Charlie Curnow healthy. But I still have so many questions about so many players, and it could go either way.
I think we're talking about tier 3 to tier 2, but I mean, for me, if these guys get to tier 2, that's great. But tier 3, 10 a penny. You can buy these with pick 60 if you want to get a list of them. I'm looking at tier 2s who can get into that tier 1 category. So I think the smoky gun that we've got on our list, who I'm really excited about, is David Cunningham. we've talked about every year we talk, it's Connor's year. Like, he's had a few years, Connors. But last year, I thought he strung some games together before injury where I was starting to look at him and thinking, this is what that hype is. This is what people talk about. And he's another guy that likes to start on the wing, high half forward. He does drop deep. He's another player that I'm looking at when he comes back from injury. If Carlton are playing this competitive brand of getting the ball outside, he could be Carlton's little Langdon for Melbourne, the guy who just hits traffic, takes off and makes something happen. Cunners is a guy that I'm looking at saying tier 2, be tier 1 at the end of this year. So I'd love to see everyone else's tier 2 player. Who's going to be the tier who gets into tier 1?
My only thing with Cunners is because it's an ACL and because it happened halfway through the season last year, it's just hindered his preparation. That's the only thing. But I mean, I think in terms of timing and expectation, I mean, all of a sudden we've added a few new players and some more layers to this midfield in Chera and Hewitt, who, by the way, both of them looked very impressive on Friday, just the way they go about it. They're training the way they train it. You can tell they're not Carlton players. But yeah, I'm just mindful of that. And I think because we've got more layers there, there's not as much pressure on Cunners to become a star. And in turn, that probably works in his favor. He's definitely someone that shows the glimpses. We've been speaking about it for years now. It's literally been 5 years of the same conversation. But the timing of his return, I think, really works in our favor, considering we have a couple of other layers to go through that midfield now that we're not as desperate to get him in there.
Mate, I'm with you. And I think there's less pressure. And we're talking about a guy. I mean, let's be honest. No one cares about anyone on our list. Well, I don't, apart from one guy. Everyone's been telling me about Charlie Curnow. That is the man there. Charlie Curnow. I've seen some of the footage. I'm a wee bit excited. I said he will outkick Mackay. It's coming true, ladies and gentlemen. The Charlie's back. The big dog's here to take his title. He wants it back. Charlie's back, baby.
The one thing about Charlie I will say is, obviously we haven't been to training, and one thing we know about him is he is a showman, and when there is a crowd, he rises to the occasion. I can only imagine what finals football would be like for someone like him who enjoys the spotlight and thrives in it. Not everyone can step up to the pressure, but he seems to thrive off it, and it seemed like the more the crowd made noise as he got the ball, the more he wanted to do it, and the more he kept finding his way to the ball. It was a good first impression back for Charlie. I'll give you that much. Even though Palmer did call you straight after training and really G'd you up, but it was a good first impression.
Mate, I can see it. I really can see. I did my video today of 5 big calls, and I said that one of the big calls was Carlton make a final and win one.
Yep.
I can see him being the guy that wins as a final. I can see him having a 7-goal game in a final, just Charlie doing Charlie things. Against GWS, I reckon, at GWS, they'll final, Carlton sneak into the finals, and he turns us on and gives us a glimmer of hope, and we win out in Sydney. But no, he's someone that I think a whole pre-season is huge. He's a huge thing for Charlie, and I'm excited. Because Charlie and Harry, best combo in the league.
This is the one for me in terms of who is the tier 2 player that will rise to tier 1. For me, it's Jack Silvani. I've had to think about, everyone wants to know who's your breakout player. And I generally look at the last, 6 to 7 weeks of a season and the players who have really shown some consistent footy to finish a year. I think when you couple that with a strong preseason, with more continuity from rounds 1 to 10, we'll say, I think Jack Silvani has ticked all the boxes. I think the body has come along. He finally got, 12 uninterrupted weeks, and provided that he gets more uninterrupted weeks in this preseason and plays round 1, he's also someone that as the season goes on, he just seems to get better. I think we'll finally start talking about Jack Silvani in a real serious way this year.
Well, I think Voss will want about 6-7 players on his list that he can trust. And I'd say Jesus would be very high up on his list of guys he knows what he's gonna get every week. And I think that's a huge thing. I love this comment by Timothy. Doc as well is a player that I would say is a tier 1 player, but probably his output over the last year, we know he was injured, it's harsh, but it wasn't efficient. He probably is on that precipice. Wing role is probably the perfect time now, hasn't he? Because he's got Newman who does kind of his job.
Yeah.
He's got Saad who does the run and rebounding. Probably a time that we send that experience onto the wing as well. Doc, a little bit of an easier role for him, a bit more out of the way, a bit more where he can influence the game. He's another guy as well. So, yeah, JSauce, Doc, that list by old mate there is genius, actually. I think everyone on that list by Dom, spot on. Setters, Lob, Willow, Cunners, Gov. Everyone's talking about Gov because he's put down the pastries. Do you know what I mean? And he's now taking intercept marks. He's another guy. I mean, another guy that if he reaches where he could be,
yeah,
we're laughing, man. I thought we're winning a flag.
I mean, listen, we can talk about the tier 3s and the tier 2s. I think there's also the reality of the tier 1s. Now, with us, I feel like there's the tier 1 players who are labeled that due to their performance. And then there's guys who we recruited to be those players who haven't given us that yet. I think Mitch is one of them. I think Zach Williams is another one of them. If the two of them, I mean, in an ideal world, they just have career best seasons. That's really what we want. That's the luck that you want with injuries and health. But if the two of them can actually play to what they're capable of doing, that's going to make us a lot better. And just to see them out there and to see them linking up across, the back half, seeing Gov actually play that loose in defense, I think it looked good in training. At the same time, they're playing on each other. So are they really playing to a standard that's going to be as hard as what Richmond would? I don't know. It was pretty physical. I'll definitely give you that. But it's just a critical year for everyone involved.
Mate, spot on. I mean, that was the one feedback that you gave me and a few others gave me, that this was the first time they've seen Carlton train with a bit of intent. That's been my big criticism of the open training. They kind of train as if it's having a few beers down the pub with their mates, a bit of park footy. Like, you watch Richmond, they don't fuck about when they train. Do you know what I mean? There's training with purpose and there's training for the sake of it. So that's exciting. And I agree. I think Jack Martin's a guy as well who escapes a lot of criticism. I think he is a player that, for me, gives tier 2 output. Should be tier 1.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We went hard for him. And he's a guy that we've seen against Richmond a couple of years ago, round 1. Tier 1 player. If he can do that 9 out of 20 times, it's fantastic. Problem is at the moment it's 1 in 15 games we get that out of him. So a lot of players here, I think, in tier 2, which I would say would be 75% of our list. There's a lot, I would say half of that 75% could be tier 1 if it got consistency.
Yeah.
If it stopped being brilliant 1 minute. And I think that's the issue with Carlton. We can be brilliant and we could roll West Coast in West Coast, but then we can play Gold Coast at the MCG and get battered by 70. Our best to our worst is a huge gap.
Or have 19 straight goals kicked against us.
He brings it up every week just to bring me down. With the shirt that was worn in that game. That's a cursed 29, that shirt.
We're going to do a ritual before the season starts. We're going to burn this Guernsey here. Sorry, Corey. A few questions here about the open training session on Friday. I don't know. There were some people who were maybe hinting that they might do it again. I have no idea. So don't take that for fact. I'm not sure where those whispers came from. Apparently, they're going to be doing an open training session again. Best thing to do is just wait for an announcement. I'm sure it'll be made very clear to us if they've got an open training session. And then there was another one here from Timothy Christodoulou, Greek boy. Not sure if this has been asked yet, but who plays between Young and Plowman come round 1? I'm not sure. Before I answer that, I'm going to put a link in if anyone wants to come on and have a chat in the video. I'm not sure if these two are two guys that play one or the other. And I'm not putting him down, but Lewis Young seemed to me like he's still got some work to do. He's not necessarily a walk-up start for round 1 like what a lot of people think he might be.
Oh, you've broke it. You've broke the cheat code. I mean, who based on that training was the second key?
Oscar McDonald or Mitch McGovern. Probably Oscar McDonald.
So, I mean, you could say that. I would say that if you want an Oscar, it has to be fair. It has to be a decent height. So Oscar would probably take it in that scenario. I would say Gov then would take Plowman's spot because I'd imagine they want to play Kemp because Kemp's use is very good. And then you'd ask yourself the question that you'd probably have Newman and Sard. So to answer his question there, the original question, I would say Plowman would probably be ahead in Carlton's logic. But I think if Gov is playing, they'll say, well, we've got the intercept. Kemp has also got that intercept ability and can lock down. And Oscar McDonald is your Harrison Petty rebranded.
I think
Do you know
so.
what I mean? He just stays on his man.
Yeah, I was conscious of getting too excited about Lewis Young, and I came away from training saying to myself, just give the young man some time to settle in. I don't think he's a foregone conclusion for round one, and I don't think he's a foregone conclusion for being the instant replacement for Jones. He's definitely going to get his opportunity, but I thought at times he just didn't look as experienced as what some of the others did on the day. So I thought that was interesting.
It's interesting with the makeup as well, because let's just say it's between Young and McDonald. Both of them are identical defenders in the terms of that they're a spoiled first defender. They make it hard to mark. So to replace Jones was more of an intercept, peel-off guy, which would then allude that Wheaterin's going to have a more free role to get the ball, do what he needs to do. But then that would say to me that you need the third mid defender to be the interceptor as well to make up for what you've lost with Jones. So that would be between Kemp, maybe McGovern. I don't mind the idea of McGovern playing that body-on-body role because he does that very well in the forward line. That's probably one of his strengths, really, one-on-one. He's all right at doing that. So be interesting. That's a great question because that back line now has a shitload of medium-sized players, 2 small guys, and a stocker. So
exactly.
It's a weird back. The back line now is a real interesting place.
Yeah. Ollie says that Young has no competition for his spot. I wouldn't agree with that. I don't think that that's the case. I think between McDonald, Parks, McGovern, because really it's the key defender. It's the centre half back, right? Wiedering is our fullback, or whatever the case may be. We need a centre half back and a fullback. It's Wiedering and X player. So whoever that X player is, I don't think it's a walk up start for Lewis Young.
Well, I mean, the gorgeous Natalie has just reminded us of a guy that we always forget.
Marchbank. Well, she's right.
The Marchie man, and Marchie and Wheatering is dream stuff. If he can get fit, dream stuff.
You want to hear about mayonnaise, mate? There are very few players who, when they run laps, they get you excited. And Caleb Marchbank is that guy. You see him running laps. You see no strapping on the knee, no strapping anywhere on the body. You see him, the definition in his arms, and it just makes the imagination run wild. But the reality is he's coming from a long way back, and we said it in the preview with him, which is going to be posted in the next week or so. It's just who knows? Who knows?
He's that guy, though, isn't he? Like he's the closest person on our list to Liam Jones.
Yeah.
In the terms of he can intercept, but he's also got the ability to hit targets. And I see some of the comments like complaining about Oscar McDonald. I remember when we talked about Oscar McDonald at the end of last season, he would be a guy I would think he should be in there. Should be number one because it's like something like 91 games or something he played as a key defender for Melbourne, and then they flirted with the idea of him being a forward. He would be the one who says, you know what, I've got credits in the bank. Like, what's Lewis Young done? Played 1 season for the Doggies?
Correct.
You know what I mean?
And keep in mind the games that he did play in defence for Melbourne. He played in defence in their 2018 year when they made the prelim. So he wasn't playing in wishy-washy Mickey Mouse games, as you call them.
Wishy-washy, Mickey Mouse. Hey, these are good sayings. No, I'm with you. So, I'd say that, do I think it's the move? Personally, I think the dream move is Young Wheatering because you can build for a decade.
Yeah.
But I don't mind Oscar. I really don't. He's He's Audi baked beans. They're not as good as Heinz, but they're still baked beans. Do you know what I mean? They get you by. Do you know, but I'd love Marchbank. Like, I think Natalie nailed it. If Marchbank can get right, like, he can't keep getting injured, can he?
Well, he can.
He can't.
You'd hope not, but anyway, we've got a guest. He's clicked in. His name is Chris Beach, and he's back. Hello, mate.
Gentlemen, how are we?
We are great. Good to see you.
Likewise.
What is happening? What's on your mind?
Well, just good to see that we finally had an open training session after the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been 2 years since we went to an open session.
Exactly right, and we've got a 3/4 empty stadium almost with a new development going on as well. So God knows what it would have been like if we had all those stands still in there.
Yeah. Who did you take note of from the session?
So I wasn't able to go because like Tom, I was stuck at work, but I kept seeing highlights of Sarge and Charlie just pushing each other along as they went. But other than that, mate, it seemed to be like business as usual and people just pushing each other to try and be better as compared to others where they've just been, business as usual. Yeah, I'm not going to hurt you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what excites me, and I don't know if you feel the same, Beach, is if you do your 22, this is the first time that if me and Terry and you did our best 22 off the top of our heads, I guarantee there's 5 or 6 spots that are different. And I think Voss will be the same. Like every day at training, it probably changes, which for me is the best chance for us to get tier 3 players to be tier 2 players, tier 2 players to be tier 1, because there is actually a competition for your spot. We talked about the back line, all these different varieties. There is actually about 3 or 4 players in each position now who really could be saying, I could retire my mate. So we need to start training like I'm retiring you.
And I reckon everyone else has got that point now as well.
I'll tell you one thing I noticed. The way they tackled each other, they weren't being friendly. Not at all.
No.
I made note of Harry. Harry was manic with his pressure, and there was one particular moment where he ran down Adam Chera and really let him know about it. I think Plowman and Matt Owies, or it might have been Matt Owies and Jack Martin. No, it was Plowman and Matt Owies were really getting into each other. They were getting frustrated with each other because Matt Owies loves the pressure. It was good to see. It was good to see. I mean, there were a lot of turnovers, but it was due to the pressure.
No, exactly. And I'm going off your training report as well because, like I said, I wasn't able to go. Otherwise, I probably would have gone.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad to hear that the pressure was actually lifted. And I mean, actually lifted for once rather than saying, oh, we're going to just lift it to here when we wanted to be up here and, keep it going.
As just a high level question, what are your feelings going into this season? Because I spoke about it last week. I was speaking with Palm about how I feel and I sense this. I think the phrase was cautious optimism. I just don't see us getting too over the top at this point in the year compared to what we were this time last year. So are you in that camp as well?
I am. There is cautious optimism as well because I actually want to see it, and I don't want to hear us talking about it. We want to see it, not actually talk about it week to week. All right, we start with Richmond round 1. We start with the Dogs round 2, who are grand finalists. Okay, they might not have won the flag, but that doesn't matter. The fact is, we've got to do this ourselves. We can't rely on everyone else around us to do more.
It does seem more professional this year, just the messaging, which really, like, you see Richmond, and I've got a lot of Richmond mates, they never build up pre-season, Richmond. And even when they were premiers, it was about, we've done the hard work, winning the flag, now the hard work begins, we retain it. And back to business. And that's the mantra they always use. You watch their posts, and it's like, back at work, business time. And then you watch Carlton like last year, and it's like, oh, friends are meeting up. We've missed each other. And you're like, well, yeah, that's good. You've missed each other, but are you fucking working? That is actually exciting me that we're using the B word, because this is a job. At the end of the day, I'm really old and miserable with this. I don't want them to fucking like each other. I don't care if they're best mates. I don't care who goes to whose wedding, who's gone to whose barbecue. Win a fucking game of football. How's that sound for you? And hate each other for all I care. It actually seems like there is a job now. There is a mission. It's not let's be the happiest. Let's win games, because then you are happy when you win.
They'll actually, correct. You've got to win to enjoy it. You've got to earn the right to enjoy it. And I think that is a great example of what Richmond have done. They earned the right to enjoy it by winning, and then in essence that became addictive. And because it was enjoyable, it became easier for them to continue winning. But the key part was putting in the work to get over the hump. And look, at the end of the day, if we beat Richmond round one, then the lid's blown off. I know how this goes, because it hasn't happened in however long. People are going to feel like it's a sign. I know I will. But until they beat Richmond, they don't get the excitement that we can give.
We beat Melbourne in pre-season, the lid comes off.
Love it. Love it. Anything else on your mind, Chris?
Well, boys, look, new year, new season ahead. We've just got to build on it now and hopefully push ourselves back up to where we need to be, because it's been far too long, ladies and gents. Far too long.
Absolutely. No, well said, mate. It's good to see you. We will be in touch.
Boys.
See you tomorrow during the watch along.
Absolutely.
Speaking of, where am I?
I get excited because I can't see who's coming on, so I get excited of who you're bringing in.
No, there's nobody else. I just couldn't get the background. So for everyone who has been following the AFLW, tomorrow, I believe it's a 7:10 game or a 10:8.
We've got an evening game on a school night as well. I mean, is it still Pride Round? Are they still calling it Pride Round?
I don't know. That's the truth. I don't know. I know that the GWS game, there wasn't a Pride Guernsey they were wearing, but long story short, tomorrow at 7 p.m. we will be live watching the girls play and just reacting to it live. So if you're keen to check that out, come and hang out with us and watch us lose our shit after we see goals being missed from 5 meters out. So that'll be a bunch of fun.
I'm declaring it Pride Round. I don't need the AFL to fucking tell me. Pride Round. Pride Round.
It's Pride Round. Yeah. Mate, anything else on your mind before we wrap it up?
Well, I mean, to touch on it, what is everyone, because this was my video today, your outrageous call. So I don't want you to do something cheap and cheat. Like, do something that you think's a bold call. So something like Kennedy's going to finish 5th in the Brownlow. What is people's bold calls this year? We've talked about players improving. What do you foresee as a big, something that we probably don't usually expect that's going to happen next year?
A lot of pressure on it this year. My one last year was Sam Walsh to win the Brownlow, and that was not so. Right, I mean, it wasn't too bad. I think this isn't bold, but I think Cripps will be winning the best and fairest. But in terms of who is going to be that player, that one where he was in a. I mean, we spoke about 5 of them before, but there really is a pool of 8 or 9 players who could do anything this season. And I guess the big call. No, just get vibes from Oscar McDonald. I get vibes. You're
falling in love with Oscar.
Yeah, I just like what I see. Don't know. Just get vibes.
I like that. One of mine was I predicted Mitch McGovern will poll 3 Brownlow votes in a game, and I love Ari's here saying he'll get in the AA squad. I've just got a feeling that Mitch is going to absolutely fall in love with that spot. And that's all because of our conversation about him being a new father. I reckon his fitness and that are linked. And I think he's going to see. I was listening to, if you go on the WA website, West Coast Eagles, there's a great article about 2 years ago with Jeremy McGovern about overcoming injury. And he talked about a light bulb moment with his dog. that
Yeah.
made him realise that he could take life for granted, and he started to focus on the rehab and focus on the preparation. I reckon the dog for Mitch McGovern is the kid. I think that's the light bulb moment where he's like, you know what, I only get one crack at this. So I love that shout. And I love Nathan's one here. VFL, us to win the VFL, showcasing the depth. I rate that.
Where is it? Where Nathan? I can't see.
Nathan said
Oh, yes, he's right here. I like this too. I like this too. This would actually be a positive influence for the group moving forward.
Just winning something with Carlton would be fucking a positive influence. Like a raffle, a meat raffle. Like I've heard the players enter the Carlton cheer squad raffle and they don't even win that. So, I mean, that's how bad we are at winning stuff. So just winning anything would be good. But I do love, imagine us winning the VFL.
It'd be massive. Well, see, for me, like I know you touched on Jack Carroll. I still think he's, a year or so away. I'd love to see him crack into the side this year, but there's no reason why he can't win the. I think he would be one of the best midfielders in our reserves for the year if he plays all year uninterrupted. I think he and Setterfield are going to be there quite a lot this year.
Yeah, I think he might break in the back end of the year. I think that it's going to be a problem position for Carlton, finding someone to come in off the wing. So I think someone will take it. I also have got a sneaky feeling. I checked the odds earlier. I don't mind Jesse Motlop for the Rising Star.
Okay. Look, he took a hanger.
Coming in mid-year with them two big forwards and taking the piss.
Well, isn't Brody Kemp eligible for Rising Star?
How many games has he played?
2.
Well, he hasn't played many. I think he would be, is he?
So there's your big call. There it is. Brody Kemp to win the Rising Star award.
Oh, mate. Imagine that. Walsh, Brownlow. We take the VFL out. We take the AFL out. Imagine that. It's just Carlton. AFL becomes blue.
Oh, gosh. All right. We're talking about too many awards now. It's time to wrap it up.
It always happens.
It always does. All right, ladies and gents, I look forward to seeing a lot of you tomorrow, 7 p.m, live watch along. We really are ramping up. It's starting to really come together. We'll have more of the previews coming out this week as well. Pommy will be doing his thing on his channel, and we'll see you there. Have a great week, and go Blues. Thanks, Pommy.
Go Blues.